Yo, what's going on, you guys? It's your boy Bill Mahari here, represent Mahari Nation Sports Podcast. Much love to the entire LDBC and the entire basketball community. If you want more basketball content, tune into Basketball Conversations every Saturday night at 9 p.m. Central Time. Is where we discuss basketball-related topics, news, debates, and everything else in the world of basketball. Now, with all the pleasantries out the way, let's get down to business here, shall we? So, this has been 48 hours since the Clippers blew their 3-1 lead against the Denver Nuggets. And man, did Twitter rip into that team more than any other time throughout the entire season. Man, they was going in on Paul George. They was going in on Kawhi Leonard, Doc Rivers, you name it. Anyone on that team, they was going in on them dudes. Now, allow me to drink some Pepsi as I get ready to telescribe what I'm about to say here, shall we? Okay. I like to give myself a little bit of energy in myself because I'm about to go in on this dude Paul George that you see on the screen right here. So here's the little title of this video here. Paul George said after the loss that this is a championship or bust for this entire team. Okay. Now I'm not gonna read entirely what he said on ClutchPoints.com, but you guys can look it up for yourself. But here's what he pretty much said. He says that this is a long-term process, that this was not considered championship or bust year. So this is what he had to literally say, end quote. And this was during the press conference after the game, end quote. I think internally we've always felt this is not championship or bust year for us. We can only get better for the long for get better the longer we stay together, and the more we're around each other. The more chemistry for the group, the better. I think that's really the tale of the tape of this season. We just didn't have enough time together. End quote. Really? Really, Paul George? Is that what you really say, huh? This wasn't championship or bust year? Well, then what the hell was this entire season for then, huh? What the heck was it all about? When Kawhi Leonard basically told the Clippers, listen, if you want me, you got to bring in my main man Paul George with me. Okay, what was that all about, huh? All this time, using load management to try to get you guys healthy enough to get into the postseason. You see, this is what I got a problem with Paul George in his comments here. Okay, you're telling me this wasn't championship or bust year. Then what the hell were all those roster moves were about, huh? Getting Reggie Jackson, getting Marcus Morris, getting who else? Getting Joakim Noah, bolstering the roster, getting Lou Williams, all them guys. I mean, are you kidding me? Come on, man. Like, let me tell you something right now, all right? I am getting tired of this dude making up all the excuses in the book about why they lost this series. You lost this series because you guys did not want it bad enough. Y'all didn't want it enough. And you guys stuck up the joint in the worst time of the season. And salute to, I'm going to find this comment real quick. Salute to, um, let me just find this comment real quick. Just give me one quick second. Just one quick second. All right. Okay, whatever. Don't matter. It doesn't matter. Point is this, okay? Point is this. Why is it that you guys sitting around here talking about we want the Lakers, we want the Lakers, we want to beat the Lakers and win the championship, when the Lakers have been pretty much not been thinking about you guys and been handling their business in the postseason? They figured out the Blazers after losing game one. They figured out the Rockets after they lost game one, and they managed to lose only 2 playoff games thus far. So how are you gonna sit here and tell me like, oh, this wasn't championship or bust year? And the words of Coach Selton Harris. How are you gonna explain this, huh? On Coach Selton Harris's great quote. How are you gonna explain the fact how you guys combined to shoot 0 for 11 in the fourth quarter? All right, only combined to score 24 points in the entire game. All right. How are you going to sit here and tell me that you guys combined to score 24 points and literally made 10 shots and shot 10 for like what? 10 for 10 for 38 from the field in game 7 for the most important game of the entire season. How are you going to sit here and tell me that this wasn't a championship or bust year? And then also hearing the reports about him and Montrezl Harrell getting into a fight, during the huddle. Like, I don't understand what that mentality is, Paul George. I really don't get it. I don't get it. Because of the fact of the matter is, you have not succeeded beyond your expectations ever since you left Indiana. All right? You mean to tell me that all those great years in Indiana, being the top team in the Eastern Conference, and you couldn't beat the Miami Heat, was that not championship or bust year for you guys? Really? How about the fact when you got traded to OKC and played with your buddy Russell Westbrook? Was that not championship or bust year for you guys? Like, listen, I'm getting tired of these excuses from Paul George. I really am. All right? This team got beat because they did not want it bad enough. And sure, you guys didn't play a lot together throughout the season, right? Because you were playing the whole load management thing. But it doesn't matter. Now that you learned that you cannot take this regular season for granted. And I hope that Kawhi Leonard's knees, can hold up for the majority of his career, because his knees are probably going to be just degenerative, and they're going to start breaking down internally in the long run. So you just hope that his knees can last. But still, no excuse. All right, zero excuse to basically get blown out of the building in the second half. All right, in both the second halves of all three of their losses, games 5 through 7, the Nuggets actually outscored the Clippers 181-17, which is something that is mind-boggling when you really think how deeply talented this Clippers team is. But they got exposed. They got exposed when adversity hits them in the face, and they just are like scared little kids. They don't know how to respond from it, right? And I'm glad ESPN. I'm glad that Fox Sports. I'm glad they're ripping you. Now, I don't normally watch those shows every day, but they took the task of ripping this Clippers team. All right, and as well as they should. And I'm gonna make a separate video about why the Clippers are never going to be the king of LA. That's gonna be a separate video later on. All right, but here's the thing. Okay, the Clippers right now have done it to themselves again. They have never made a Western Conference final. And you're meaning to tell me with two of your best two-way players in the game, this was not a championship year? Really? It is ridiculous. I don't want to hear it. I'm not trying to hear it. I I don't want to hear any of those excuses from Paul George. You played like crap in the Dallas series, and you just barely showed up in that Denver series. And when the most important game of the entire season, you and Kawhi Leonard went to bed. All right, it is unbelievable. And to make things worse, the Clippers held a 16-point lead in the third quarter of Game 5, a 19-point lead in the third quarter in Game 6, and a 12-point lead in the later portions of the second quarter in Game 7. And the story of those three games was that the Clippers built a double-digit lead, and it got significantly small after 3 quarters of play before the Nuggets turned on their switch and really just dominated them in the fourth quarters of each game. All right, the Nuggets wanted it more than the Clippers did, and you know what? The Lakers are gonna have to really figure this out with against the Nuggets too, because the Nuggets have came back from a 3-1 deficit in both rounds of the playoffs. This team is playing with house money. They have nothing to lose, because even if they lose in the conference finals, they know that they had a great run in the postseason, and they're looking forward to next season because they know those young guys, they're only going to get better. But with this Clippers team, if they don't find a way to right the ship of this season's failure and find a way to redeem themselves for next season, expect big changes in Clipperland. All right. I don't know why Doc Rivers is not immediately fired for this. All right. And I'm going to make another video going in on Doc Rivers. But today is about Paul George. Paul George, you pretty much accepted mediocrity. You pretty much accepted about losing is okay. And you sure you're going to say that losing hurts. But the way that you talked in that press conference, it feels like losing doesn't hurt as much as many of the other players should. When you lose that bad in the playoffs, it should sting. It should hurt you. And I don't think it's hurting him as much as it should. Okay. When Magic Johnson failed in the '84 finals, it hurt him deeply. He took a media beating and wouldn't come out of the house for several months until he basically had to get up and retrain his game again to basically redeem himself from the failures of '84. And then he came back in '85, redeemed himself, and won the championship. All right, Michael Jordan went through the failures of the Pistons for about the next 3 straight seasons until he figured it out. All right, Shaq and Kobe didn't figure it out until 3 seasons later. All right, 4 years combined. They couldn't figure out how to get it done in the playoffs against the Jazz and the Spurs until they figure out in 2000 when they won the title. All right, losing hurt them deeply and it motivated them to get better. All right, I don't think losing hurts Paul George as much as it should. And let me say this though too. Damian Lillard has not missed the opportunity to go in on Paul George. All right. The guy, that's right, the little man that made the half court buzzer beater in your face in last year's playoffs basically decided to go. Basically, he took the task of going in on Paul George, and Paul George had nothing to say about it. Literally nothing to say. Sure he's been probably going back and forth and stuff like that. But what are you worried about going back and forth on Twitter? All right, you should be more focused on recrafting your basketball game, just basically getting yourself back into shape and getting yourself motivated to get back on the court and redeem yourself of the embarrassment that you displayed in the playoffs. All right. I'm getting tired of these dudes going around social media, going around basically starting little fake Twitter beats and all that, instead of going into the weight room, going on to the basketball gym, and just start shooting, getting ready for next year. All right. Because right now, it's literally this is it for the Clippers. All right, they cannot play this game of, oh, it's not championship or bust year, like Paul George said. No, absolutely not. You either get it done or break up this team. All right, no excuses. All right, and considering the fact how the West is going to continuously get tough. All right, with the Lakers in the mix and with Denver showing that they're becoming a future title contender in the making. All right, I'm gonna tell you something. This Western Conference right now is only going to get deeper and it's going to get more condensed. And more importantly, Golden State is going to have their crew back. All right, they're going to have their dominant backcourt back, and they have the salary space to sign another star player on their team. So guess what? The Clippers' opportunity may have been closed on them. All right, but it's up to them to redeem themselves of last year. If they can learn from what they did, what they failed at throughout the entire season, then I think they have a slim of a chance. But right now, both Paul George and Kawhi Leonard, they on trial, guys. They are goddamn trial of how they performed in that game 7. All right, you cannot sit here and try to play Twitter games right now. You have to literally get in there and basically focus in and try to get better and try to redeem yourselves of what you guys failed at in the playoffs. All right. Doc Rivers, the same thing. Listen, this man should have been fired by now. All right. But I think Steve Ballmer is just likes Doc Rivers too much that he's going to keep him around. But don't make no mistake about it. If they fail once again in the same situation, it's over for this team. Over. All right. I am done playing with these excuse games. All right. I'm not going to play any excuse games with this Clippers team. None. This was a championship year, and you guys floundered it at the worst time available. All right. You didn't even make it to a conference finals where the Lakers were literally waiting for you. LeBron James, Anthony Davis, they were waiting to see y'all. All right. And you didn't even show up. You couldn't even close it out against these Nuggets. So, guess what? The Lakers have handled their business. You guys didn't. And you guys deserve to get ripped for it. And I don't want to hear any more excuses from this jokester Paul George. All right? Talking about, oh, it's not championship but bust year. Then what was that all about, huh? I'm not trying to hear it. It's garbage. Absolute garbage. They better redeem themselves next season. If they don't, break up this team. Break it up. I'm not trying to hear any more excuses. None. You either get it done or don't even talk no more. Because Paul George, you don't have a championship. Kawhi's got 2. So he gets a little bit of the benefit of the doubt, but not by much. And I got a separate video waiting for Kawhi Leonard. Trust me, I'm going to cook on his ass. Trust me. But the bottom line is, Paul George, you got no excuses, bruh. Get it done next season. I'm out.